Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the XM. In the previous video I found out that the ABS sensor on this wheel was broken. There was no resistance read. I showed you how I measured that. I told you that the sensors were supposed to show 1 ohm. That was wrong. I'm not very good at electric stuff and it shows in a video like that, but it was 1,000 ohms. My odometer just sets the scale to 1 is 1,000, so therefore I got a little bit confused. But it's 1,000 ohms. That is the, I think it's around from 900 to 1,400 ohms. That is the specs, I think. Don't quote me on that. Then I found another replacement sensor for it for 850 euros, which I didn't buy, of course, because that's crazy. Apparently those sensors aren't rocket science at all, but they need to be the correct resistance, they need to fit, and they need to have the correct distance between the ABS ring in there. I talked about dailying XM, the YouTube video about dailying an XM, showing you how to make a sensor for the front wheels. It turns out that it's actually the same deal, at least he thinks it's the same deal on the rear. So that is what I'm gonna do. Not exactly the same because I haven't got the same part number as he got, but I have ordered a ABS sensor for a Golf 3, I think it is, for the front and for the opposite side also because of the connections where it points towards. Once again, I don't know your name, but thank you, Dailying XM, for great knowledge. It is amazing what is possible with these old beasts when we stick together and share information online. That's great. So what I want to do today is to try to make that work. The connector won't fit, so I have to make something out of that, but it doesn't really matter. As long as it works, it needs to work in Denmark. You cannot get an MOT on a car with an ABS fault. I know I got a lot of comments stating that it's not a problem in the States, it's not a problem. In a lot of places, it's not a problem if the ABS doesn't work as long as the brakes work. That's not the case in Denmark. Even though the ABS is working, if it's showing an error code in the cabin, it won't pass the MOT no matter what that error code is. I need to fix it. I wrecked the old sensors in the previous video, so it's still stuck in there. I read somewhere, also on a comment I think, that the sensor is actually glued in there, so that makes sense why I couldn't get it out. I really was trying to be careful, but it just came apart completely. What I'm going to do is to remove the rear bearing and the hub because I need to get in there to see it and pry it out somehow. And also I need to measure the distance between the ABS sensor ring and the sensor so I can make the new one fit with exactly the same clearance. So let's try to do that. Yeah, I'm sponsored by Skill, but seriously, if you want to change or get your first set of power tools, go look for these because they are way cheaper and just as good. At least in my experience, than everything else. I was using a very renowned mark before, and I gotta say this one is just as good and in many places better. Keep in mind that Skills sells a professional and a do-it-yourself series. The do-it-yourself series is fine for small do-it-yourself projects. The professional series is more than fine for the stuff that I do in my garage. Pretty much exactly the same setup as the CX, although the bearing is smaller. Now I can see the sensor in there. Of course I can't measure the distance between them because I can't get in there. But I can see how much it protrudes. Not another one. Protrude. Yes, you can see it sticks out right there. So I can measure how much it sticks out there. I just need to find a clever way to do that. And then I'm gonna put it in, the new one, into the same protrusion as this one. Firstly, I need to figure out how to get it out. As mentioned, I wrecked it in the previous video, so it's still just sticking in there. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to reset this one, and then I'm going to do like this. And then down here will be this one coming out. So I rest this one on the sensor and let this one hit the casing. That gives me 3.57. I'm also going to log it. And then I think I can get this one out. Maybe I can just push it out. Most likely not. Maybe I can tap it inwards with some kind of dowel. Because I don't need to be careful anymore. It's completely wrecked. That's the good part. There we go, it's out. If anyone ever tells you that you should just go to a wrecker yard and pick one off a scrap car, well, I think I'd go as far as to say it is impossible to remove an ABS sensor from an XM without destroying it. So if you ever need a new one and goes to a wrecker yard, make sure to get the entire swing arm, otherwise it won't work. But here it is, it's out. Let's just measure the resistance in the old one. Yeah, as you can see, that's not very good. And then the Golf 3 one. Oh yeah. 1.0 kilo ohm, so that's 1,000 ohm. Perfect. And now I'm ready to install this to test. It's a tight fit. I'm just gonna put it all the way in, like so. I can already see now that it's not going very far out at all. Actually, off camera, I did a remeasurement with I made a hole right there. I punched a hole, very tiny hole, for this to fit in, to make the measurement a bit more precise. And the measurement I ended up with was not 3.57, I think I told you, but actually 2.7 right there. I'd say at least 3 millimeters needs to come off. At least. I will go in very small increments until I get it within spec, because I could measure this, but I can't. I cannot see how I can get in there to do it. But it needs to be between 0.06 and 0.7, I think it was, millimeters. So the gap is very tiny and very, yeah, there's not a lot of give. So I really need to nail it. But what I need to do is to remove at least 3 millimeters. I'm just gonna start with 3 millimeters. That's right around there. And I'm gonna remove that from this bushing. It's actually all of it I need to remove. So I'm gonna grind this away, and then we're gonna retest. I'd say that is close enough. I think it is a little bit further in, but as long as it's not touching, it won't really matter, because as mentioned, the clearance is between 0.06 millimeters and, just a second, and 0.8. So as long as it's not touching and not below 0.06, which is really tiny, it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then I'm gonna fit that bearing once again, make sure that it's spinning without touching at all, and then we should be good to go. This is a very tight fit. The hole is not completely centered, comparing it to the old one. So I might have to drill it up a little bit in size. I also need to fit this one, And I forgot about that, because that is actually also a thickness that will alter the distance. I actually need to remove a little bit more from this one now, because I forgot that heat shield. So be back when I got that right. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I got it now. And I have made sure that if anything is wrong, it's too far away, so I can alter it. If it doesn't work, I can just remove a little bit of the material and then put it a little bit further in, just go a little bit in until it works, if something is wrong. But I actually doubt it, but let's see. So right now I have just wiped away all that sealant stuff. I'm not going to use it, not until I'm sure that it works. Now I'm going to remove it again, and then we are going to make some wiring for it. To do that, we will remove the old wiring, because I hope to just use that. So the next problem I just faced is this. I wrecked the connector since the last video. I must have put it in. Yeah, I just put it in here, and then I drove the car, and then I put the car on the ground, so it has crushed it because of that stupid and brilliant suspension. What a bummer. What a bummer. I hope to just be able to save this connection, because it would be a lot easier to just plug this in. The wire is not cut, it's just crushed, the connector. So we're just going to have to check if that is all right. Yeah, so as mentioned, it's crushed in one end because of I just didn't take care to put it in a good location. A bit of a freak accident, to be honest, but the suspension has crushed it when it got low after a couple of days. But what I'm going to do is to cut this one open. Trying to make the wire as long as possible, because it got a little bit of play in it, but it's not a lot. Remember, it needs to be able to move up and down. No fun intended. I heard he owns an SM, apparently. Could be rumors though. There's also a rumor that I should own an SM. Yeah. So firstly, let's measure if the wires are actually any good. Especially now that I crossed one of the ends. Let's test the first one. That's good. The other one. That's good enough. So it's just crushed, it's not disconnected in here, so I'm just gonna glue that all back together so it doesn't get moisture into the actual connector in there. Clean it up, of course, and glue it. So I think that was pretty good. At least it's attached now. Let's see if we get the correct. Let's see if we got the correct reading. Yeah. That looks nice. Then I am just going to give that some sealant and close it up. Yeah, it's not gonna be pretty, but that's not the most important bit currently. Now it's ready to go back on the car. I'm gonna put it back and take you back when everything is back together and we can test it and see if it works. Everything is back together and I want to show you something. I took huge care when I put this back in that it didn't touch the sensor, because that would wreck it pretty quickly. But what I want to show you is this. I have put the DVOM into the connector, put it on voltage. It's measuring millivolt right now. I don't know if this is the correct numbers that it shows, but take a look at this. When I spin the wheel, it is measuring something. So I think this is working. It's going to be exciting to see if it actually works on the car, but in this video I'm just gonna test if the error code goes away. I'm not ready for the test drive yet. The test drive will show if it works for real. but at least the resistance is now 1000 ohms, and there is a voltage output when the wheel is turned, and that is, I think, is what the ECU uses to measure whether the tire is spinning or standing still. So in the case of a emergency braking, one of the wheels locks, and this wheel locks up, it will suddenly measure no voltage, and it knows that it's locked up, and it will do something about that. I think that's the way the system is working, but I'm not sure. But I'm gonna fit the rest of it, and then we're gonna test it. So let's start by checking if the error code is still there. And as I learned in the previous video, it will still be there, and I need to start by clearing the codes, and then I can put it into ignition once again, start it up, and then it will do a self-diagnostic test, and if it passes that one, without any new errors, then we have fixed at least the stationary error code. 1, 2, 3. Then it's gonna blink 12 to begin the test. 1, 1, 2. And then the first code I expect to be 24. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next I expect to be 11 for end of test. And then to clear the code, 15 seconds. Like this, I think. Then I'm just going to check if it's cleared. First should be 12. That's 12. Oh, wait a second. I think I need to take the ignition off after resetting. No, it cleared the codes. Brilliant. Let's take the ignition on and off and see if it comes back. 1, 2, 3. And then 12 to begin the test. And hopefully 11 to stop the test. Oh yeah, no error codes registered at the self-diagnostic startup thing. That's good news. Let's try to actually start the car, because normally this will tell me that the ABS is not functioning. Let's see if that still happens. Boot lid open. Left front door open. Nothing else, and the ABS light down there is not lit either. It was that before. The boot lid is open. That's another problem, by the way. Yeah, we got no error codes on the ABS system at all. Yeah, that's nice. Yes! As mentioned, it's a bit too early to celebrate. I need to test drive it, because when the wheel starts spinning, then maybe it doesn't give the correct signal, the amount of voltage when driving. That could be an issue. But at least the system now checks fine, the resistance in it is fine. So I think it works, but the real test comes on the road. Thank you guys for all the brilliant comments. I got a lot of brilliant information. Thank you to Citroen XM once again, because it's pretty much his tutorial that I followed to make that sensor. I just thought that his guide was for the front wheel sensor, but it's pretty much the same thing on the rear. So that is brilliant. Sensor was priced at 40 euros. I could have gotten it a bit cheaper if I had been a bit more patient, but I got it locally for 40 euros. The one that I found for this one was 864 euros, I think. You could find them a little bit cheaper somewhere, but some of them were used, and yeah, they are just rare, the real one. But if this works, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.